And I'm Len Wright with AppClover.com, and today I have some special guests with me, and we're going to kick it off today with I've got my partner Matthew Lutz, who is a co-founder and CEO of AppClover.com. I've also got Jeff Williams from Weblance.com. Jeff, and we've
Yep.
got Carter Thomas as well from Blue Cloud Solutions, and our first
Hello.
weekly AppCast. And so what I want to do is just maybe do a quick introduction for each one of you, for Carter and for Jeff, but maybe I can actually just let you guys do a little introduction for yourselves, and tell us just a little bit about what you're doing and who you are, and then we can come back and get the AppCast started off. So Carter, if you want to start things off.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for the intro, Len. Basically, I started a website, Blue Cloud Solutions. Started developing apps last October. I was an internet marketer before that. And what I started to do is develop these apps and use them as a way to aggregate data and case studies so that I go back and publish to the web community and the app community and really try to pull back the curtain on the app world and to find out the best ways to market their app, monetize their app, and do it in a really creative way. So it's kind of out of the box stuff, and you're going to hear a lot of things that you probably won't hear on app marketing websites and other places, and try to give you a lot of creativity and brand new ideas that actually work because of things I've done. So.
Awesome, awesome. Well, and we're looking forward to hearing a lot of those insider tips during this podcast. We're going to have a Q&A with Carter to open things up in a few minutes, but just before we get to that, Jeff, I want to introduce you to as well from Weblance.com, and so tell us a little bit about what Weblance is up to and what you're doing there.
Well, Weblance, I think I'm the only one out of all of us that doesn't have their site live yet. So we hope to go live about 2 months ago. So hopefully we're going to be live, I don't know, maybe in another month. We've got about 2,000 signups, so we're pretty excited when we do go live. Hopefully most of those people will come back and fill out a profile. Weblance is just a freelance marketplace similar to Odesk or Elance, but we're providing serious project management tools that are for the specific purpose of building web apps, mobile apps, websites. And we expect to see folks that just need a couple pages of code written as well. So pretty excited about that.
Fantastic. So we'll be dealing with some outsourcing stuff as well, and be getting into that a little bit more in detail with Jeff later on in the podcast today. And last but definitely not least, Matthew, maybe Matt, you can explain a little bit about what AppClover has been up to and what we're doing.
Yeah, sure. We're pretty new to the industry, but I mean it's a new industry, right? And we've got a website that's dedicated to really showcasing a lot of kind of what Carter was talking about earlier, a lot of information and knowledge around marketing and monetization of apps. And matter of fact, just to let everyone know, both Jeff and Carter are regular contributors on our site. So we're really showcasing as many experts in the industry and giving as much tips and knowledge and all that stuff just to help app developers and appreneurs really take their game to the next level. So we're building a community there. That's kind of our centerpiece. And we also just released our first issue of Appreneur magazine that's available on iTunes now for your iPad. So that was another big milestone for us, which we're pretty excited about. We're working on our second issue right now, and Carter actually is going to be a regular contributor there too. So he's not going to be able to get away from us. And so we're excited to see the release of that second issue as well.
I didn't realize you guys had released already. If I search, what do I search on iTunes to get that?
If you just type in, you can just Google Appreneur magazine and it'll show.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and obviously we're really good at getting the word out there to all of our friends and stuff about the magazine.
Jeff, it's 32 pages of jam-packed information that you just really can't get anywhere else. So it's really being received well.
And in the first issue too, just to keep the plug going a little bit. No, in the first issue too, there's a bunch of free reports and stuff, 3 different free reports and stuff, just to kind of give you an idea of what the future issues are going to give to you. So in terms of content and stuff. So and again, that second one we're looking at next week. We should be finished with that. So we'll be submitting that second issue pretty soon. So we're excited about that. And then probably the last thing that I'll just discuss, and we've got lots of irons in the fire, but the last thing is we're actually building a platform. We're calling it AppZine Machine, and that's a platform for other people to create their own magazine apps for the Apple's newsstand and submit it, build it through our platform and submit it. So we're probably about 45 to 60 days out of being live on that, and we've got about 15 beta testers in the funnel right now. So we're really, really excited about that, and we've got a lot of our energy and stuff focused on that. So I think that pretty much sums up what we're doing. And if I left anything out, Len, you want to touch on?
Are you guys opening your beta up to anybody, or is it pretty much a private beta right now? Or
it's a private beta right now. We've had absolutely no problems filling those beta testing positions. So we will probably be taking another few beta testers on within the next couple of weeks just to test the final, and then the product release, of course, and then everybody will be able to test it.
Yeah, and actually too, like we have a waiting list started, and if people go to appzinemachine.com, they can sign up and get on the waiting list so that they get notified as soon as anything happens. And we're seeing that every day. A few people this morning signed up, so we're just keeping those people up to date on what's going on, and as soon as it's released, they'll be the first ones to know.
Yeah, fantastic. We're doing a lot of different stuff that is really, it's groundbreaking, unique, and we're trying to be able to deliver the most up-to-date content, the freshest content, that have more strategy and more insider tips with it than just, like I say all the time, do social media. Well, what does that entail? So this podcast is one of those ways that we're going to be able to open up a lot of those insider tips and strategies to the people out there, the appreneurs and the developers that are creating these apps, to be able to broaden their horizons of what information to be able to drill down and to be able to learn so that their apps can get the eyeballs needed. And it's a perfect segue, really. Let's enter into our first segment with Carter, and we want to spend just a few minutes. Yeah, we want to spend just a few minutes with Carter and drill down a little bit into what he's doing and how our other people that are watching this podcast can actually copy and emulate what Carter's already learning. So let's just dive right into that right away. And Carter, how many apps do you have in the App Store right now, and what are your projections for the next 6 months or so regarding releasing of new apps?
Yeah, so live in the store right now is pretty much, I would say, somewhere in the order of, I think about 18 or 19 that are live right now. And I've got, you can see behind me the list right here. There's about 35 that are going to be, that are kind of being developed and monetized and everything right now. So it's all going to kind of, in the next 3 months, it'll probably be up to about 50, which is pretty exciting.
Are those mostly games, or are they games and utility apps and together, or explain a little bit more about what that's made up of?
Yeah, it's pretty much all games at this point. I've got a few kind of like niche market photography apps that I'm working on. A few other I'm going to do a test on like an emoticon app to see what that sort of market's like. I've got a few things like that, but it's pretty much all games at this point, yeah.
Right on. Well, and maybe just explain your strategy a little bit, because you don't really develop these apps right from the starting developing stages, do you? No,
it's pretty much I guess the best term that's been coined is like flipping apps. And a lot of people say it's reskinning or redeveloping, but what I'll do is I'll basically go buy a gaming engine, or I'll buy like an instance of a piece of the source code, take it back, kind of look at it however I want to look at it, and then I will hire a developer and say, okay, this is exactly what I want you to do with this code. Here's what I want you to install, and then I'll take care of a lot of the marketing side of things. And all of a sudden I got a brand new app that's at a fraction of the cost and gets a lot of the upside of the business model. So it works out very, very well.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, scalability on that and the leverage on that is awesome. So.
Well, and there's very few people doing that out there. Most everybody that I've been in conjunction with talking, and they're developing their idea into an app, where you've sort of bypassed that and leverage the ability that there are source code, they're already existing out there. You're basically just, as you mentioned, reskinning, putting a new look on them, putting a new slant a little bit, and then really focusing on the marketing side and the monetization side of it.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll talk about this in the magazine and in upcoming podcasts and all these sort of things. But what I could explain is like, you're basically buying a business model. You can look at their history, and you can look at what they did that made them successful, and very easily say, okay, well, I know that I'm buying a winning model here. All I got to do is put the right flavor on it, put it under my umbrella, and the chances of that being a success are like 75, 80%. Whereas if you have a great idea and you still need to build the whole business model, that's a pretty big gamble to take. And so it's a great way to kind of mitigate your own risk and at the same time have scalability, high profitability. You don't need a lot of overhead. It's a really cool model.
Well, and building a network as well with it is huge. I mean, we all know that building an app network to be able to cross promote and so forth within is huge. And so you're able to really bypass a lot of the time that it takes to be able to get these apps up and running. And in doing so, as Matt said, you're able to leverage a huge amount of numbers of apps as well, so that you can actually start cross promoting within your own network. Yeah,
exactly. And there's a lot of really cool, kind of leverage things you can do. I don't know how to describe it, but I kind of look at it as like strategic thinkers, specifically appreneurs, entrepreneurs, people that think are kind of visionary, don't like to work serially. They don't want to do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Okay, now I'm published. They want to say, how can I do 9 things at once? And what's nice about this model is you can say, okay, well, I can send 10 icon jobs to my icon guy. I can send 20 screenshot jobs to my screenshot guy. I have my developers working on 10 sets of code, and it all happens in the amount of time that an ordinary business model would have taken to do. And if you had done each of those step by step, it takes each a couple of years. You can get this done in a couple of weeks. It's like a completely new way to look at things.
That's brilliant, man. Pat on the back for that, because it's definitely ingenuity at its best. I love it. So monetization-wise, what do you see as your go-to ninja tactic right now for being able to create more revenue from it? What's working like gangbusters right now, and what's not?
Yeah. So what I see in the market right now is definitely kind of a shift towards the freemium model. So giving away an app for free and then making money on the users and the downloads, specifically through ads. So what I've been doing is I've spent the last 3 or 4 months kind of auditing all the ad networks out there, specifically Chartboost, RevMob, Playhaven, iAds, AdMob, all Flurry, Tapjoy. And what I've been using is I've kind of settled on RevMob. They've done a really good job. They have really great customer service. They're growing like crazy. What I really like is they got really, really smart developers who started the company, whereas all these other companies are people that used to work in advertising companies, just kind of branched out and started their own. So they're all going out. That makes
such a difference.
Yeah, it's like they're advertising. They're going out trying to grow their company by getting more advertisers, whereas RevMob's coming in being like, I want to go out and get more developers. I want to grow my base and push the market up that way. And because of that, you can get much higher revenue, you get much better code, you get much more better customer service for the developers, and it's paid off. It's definitely the best monetization I've found so far for all my apps.
So to go expand just a little. Sorry about that, Jeff, but just to expand a little bit more, you mentioned on the freemium model versus the paid models. What's your opinion right now of both? Just to dig in a little bit deeper, the pros and cons. Any suggestions that you would make for people out there trying to make that decision of going either freemium model or paid?
Mm-hmm. The number one suggestion is to do both. Because I shouldn't say that. I should say you should test both. And the reason I say you should test both is because what works for some apps doesn't work for other apps. It depends on a lot of different factors, your design, your pitch, everything. I've seen paid apps do really, really well, and they can be very sustainable because they have that going for them. At the same time, I've seen free apps that just crush it and make a ton of money, and just like they go nuts. If you have a paid app, you got to have something that's very unique. You got to have a really great value proposition. and you got to have something that creates a long-term kind of revenue stream. And because of that, that can make it really powerful. With free apps, you got to have killer marketing. You got to have a lot of downloads, and you got to be able to convert people who are going to look at your app for 30 seconds and delete it. And you got to find a way to make money on them in that 30 seconds. So it's just like a different business model. There's definitely pros and cons to each. I'm on the freemium model side of things. That's where I'm at, just because that's just working for me. But yeah, going back to what I said, the number one thing you can do is test your app with both models, in the course of 6 months, and see what works for you.
Yeah, exactly. And it really comes down to the what I call it is the distraction model, and how good you are at whatever your device, whatever your app is, at distracting those people for that amount of time. The amount of time that you can actually, quote unquote, tie up their focus or their attention on what your app is doing, the better it is to be able to create revenue with that, because you've got their attention for longer, of course. So I mean, that's something to be able to think about when you're creating your game or functionality app or whatever you're doing, your utility app, is to be able to create something that actually captures that person's attention for longer periods of time, which allows you to be able to gain access to creating more revenue streams from that user as well. Well, so what's the number one marketing tactic that you've done with your app marketing that's yielded you the most results over anything else? So if you had to pick one thing, what would it be?
If I had to pick one thing, and like I said, this is for my experience, investing in the publishing. And when I say investing, it can be money, but it can also be time and energy. The publishing is the icon, the name of your app, the description, the screenshots, what categories to put it in, and what keywords to choose for your app. The reason I say that is the biggest marketing tactic I've done is because it's the one I've tested the most. It's the one I've seen the biggest swings in. For Alpha Combat, my first big app, I went out and I launched it. It did what it did, and I'm sure in the future we'll talk through that case study at some point. But basically, I went out and did all the reviews, and nothing really happened. Then I did some promotions, and a few things happened, and I've done a lot of different tests. Definitely the biggest, you'll look at it and you'll see a noticeable change is if you design really awesome icons, invest time in your screenshots, and research the keywords and the competitive area you're in, and work on almost like an inbound marketing strategy, kind of like SEO for the App Store. That's definitely been the biggest game changer for me.
I just want to ask one question. Everybody says just get it out there, test it, make sure that you've got a business first. And I've always been inclined to design the heck out of everything, make sure it's perfect. How do you? At what point do you invest in that publishing and get all of that stuff? Do you test first to make sure that it's a viable app, or do you just go for it? Well,
the short answer is that I usually find someone. I just do market research first, I guess. So that's how I determine if it's going to be a good business model or not. And I'll kind of be able to extrapolate, kind of reverse engineer it. So I say, okay, this is the market I see. Here are apps that are doing what I'm doing. Research the hell out of them. What have they done? Is this worth my time? And kind of when you get to the 20, 30, 40 app mark in the store, you can start to see a little bit of the standard deviation of
you probably already know, right?
Yeah, it's you know what's going to work, but you also know well, if I just put it in, I'm going to get 25, 30 downloads a day on a game. But if I put in the publishing and the time and the effort, it's probably going to be around 100 and 200. You just start to kind of see those. To answer your question, I think that the amount of time that I invest, I look at a week of time as a huge investment of time right now. Whereas other people might say, oh my gosh, I would definitely invest a week to make sure that I have great publishing, as opposed to if you spent 3 months of your life going out and social networking and all that sort of stuff, that's hard to give an ROI on as much.
Yeah.
And also I wanted to mention too, market research is not actually just asking your next door neighbor or your friend or your spouse, do you like my game? It goes way beyond that. Maybe you can just touch really, quickly on some of the methods that you do, you to be able to find out that market, view. Carter, what are a few things that you do to be able to test that market out?
Well, and real quick, Carter, just to jump in, because one of the things you talked about earlier as well is before you even purchase, an app or code or engine or whatever you're going to do to build off of, that's part of your buying a business model. So I think that actually takes care of the first step, right? I'd imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what's a little different about what I do versus someone who has an idea and they want to go out and say is this a good idea? And so it's a little bit different, but Len, to answer your question, I think what the things I do, there's a few things. The first is that I look at the charts every morning. So I look at my sales data and all that stuff, but then I sit down and I look at the top 100 in every category. And I spend about half an hour doing that, and I look and I see who's new, who just got in there, like what they did, and that helps me see where the market's going for every category. So that's kind of the first thing, and you start to see trends very, very quickly when you look at who's in the top 100. You start to be able to predict that pretty well. Mm-hmm. The second is that you can do a lot of keyword research now. The first being with Google's old school keyword tool, which is what you use for Google AdWords. That's free, available to anyone who has a Google account. And that just shows you web traffic volume on keywords, and that just shows you the overall demand for the market. Second part of that is when you go to you can do keyword research. So you can go use a service like AppCodes, which is this great SEO tool for the App Store. But you can also just sit down on iTunes and type in fighter jet game or whatever, and see how many results come up and see what what lands where. So that takes care of a majority of it. It's hard to put an exact science on it because a lot of it is just having experience in it.
Yeah. Well,
every app's different too, right? I mean, every app is different unto itself, so it's going to take a different strategy for research for each one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.